Good morning and welcome to All Souls Church. My name is Ross Edwards and I'm this week's service assistant.
And I'm Joanna Lubkin, minister here at All Souls Church.
A few logistical pointers. We keep everything on mute for the service except for our time of sharing joys and concerns. Links to our order of service, which includes sheet music for our hymns, are posted in the chat.
If you're new to All Souls Church, please take a moment to click on the link in the order of service and in the chat for our connection card so that we can stay in touch.
It's up to you if you want to turn your camera on and be seen. We do record the service, although joys and concerns shared will not be in the final recording.
Please feel free to chat in the chat box or to ignore it.
During the service, please feel free to get up, move around, or take a break from the screen as you need, but try to be as present as possible. And imagine we are all in the same room together.
Finally, remember that when you are invited to sing or to pray, to share or to chat, how you participate or don't is up to you.
After church, we have some time to say hello in breakout rooms.
Now, hear these words of welcome.
All who enter in a spirit of curiosity, love, and justice are welcome this morning.
Welcome to people who love God, people who don't believe in God, and people who live in the not knowing.
People who find a higher purpose deep inside, people who find it in relationship with one another, and people who find it in the interdependence of all existence.
And all of the people between.
Whoever you are, whatever your gifts or abilities may be, however you identify your gender or sexual orientation, wherever your life and faith journey has taken you, you are welcome here.
Whoever you are, whomever you love, however you understand the sacred, you bless us with your presence.
We light our flaming chalice this morning with words from George Kimmick Beach. life about us there is light. It gives us a place to be, to grow, to rejoice together. It opens the pathways to love. In this place of friendship there is freedom. Let the light we kindle go before us, strong in hope, wide in goodwill, inviting the day to come. Follow the old tradition of lighting a green candle, symbolic of our commitment to being a green sanctuary congregation. May both these flames call us to kinship with and great care for the earth and her living creatures. As we center our hearts, let's sing our chalice song for April, to kindle this light.
We kindle this light in celebration for the life that we share. We kindle this light in celebration for the light that we share.
Our opening words are from the late Irish poet and mystic John O'Donohue, called A Morning Offering. I bless the night that nourished my heart to set the ghosts of longing free into the flow and figure of dream, that went to harvest from the dark bread for the hunger that no one sees. All that is eternal in me welcomes the wonder of this day, the field of brightness it creates, offering time for each thing to arise and illuminate. I place on the altar of dawn the quiet loyalty of breath, the tent of thought where I shelter, waves of desire I am sure to, and all beauty drawn to the eye. May my mind come alive today to the invisible geography that invites me to new frontiers, to break the dead shell of yesterdays, to risk being disturbed and changed. May I have the courage today to live the life that I would love, to postpone my dream no longer, but do at last what I came here for, and waste my heart on fear no more. So may it be. Let us together bless and give thanks for this new day with our opening hymn, Morning Has Come. The video comes from Paul Thompson of our Unitarian Universalist congregation in Moscow, Idaho. Let's join now in singing together.
Song of gladness, the light
My friends, as a spiritual community, we journey together through life's ups and downs and hold each other in love. We take this time each week to recall the milestones, the joys, the concerns, the sorrows, the changes in our lives, and those in need of healing. If you have a heartfelt milestone, joy, or sorrow that you'd like to share, you're invited to share aloud or in the chat. If you'd like to share, you can come off mute by pressing the mute, unmute button, usually in the lower left corner of your screen, or by pressing *6 if you're calling in. Please share your name and briefly express what's on your heart. If you're having trouble unmuting, give us like a wave and we'll do our best to unmute you from this end. After each person shares, I'll drop a stone in water, symbolic of the water that we gathered and blessed in this year's water ceremony. And please know that this section won't end up in the final recording. What's shared now is kept only here in real time. All are welcome to share now. For all of the sorrows and all of the joys that remain in our hearts, I'll drop one final stone to remember and to rejoice. We center ourselves, lifting up these prayers, milestones, excitements, losses, all of it, with our centering hymn, Return Again. It's the recording that Matt Meyer and I created last year. Invite us to center and return to ourselves as we sing.
Return again, return again, return to the home of your soul.
Join with us.
Return again, return again, return to the home of your soul.
Return to who you are.
Return to who you are, return to what you are, return to where you are, born and reborn again. Return to who you are, return to what you are, return to where you are, born and reborn again. Return again, return again, return to the home of your soul. Return again, return again, return to the home of your soul. Return to who you are. Return to what you are, return to where you are, born and reborn again. Return to who you are, return to what you are, return to where you are, born and reborn again. Return again, return again. To the home of your soul.
Last time.
Return again. Return again. Return to the home of your soul.
Reborn again. I invite you to join me in a time of meditation and prayer, first in words, then in silence, and then in music. Our words of meditation today are from Reverend Sarah Eileen Lawal. Spirit of life and love, in the silence, in the stillness, we hear the call of our own heart, its tender dreams, its sorrows, and its triumphs. In the silence, in the stillness, we hear whispers of days gone by, of dreams still becoming, the promise of the future. We celebrate together our individual journeys and dreams and our collective ones, knowing the journey is so much richer with others to share in it. In the name of all that is holy, we pray. We take this time now in shared prayerful silence.
We come to this place because we love what exists here. The church is a living entity, and like all living things, it must have nurture and sustenance. Its breath and its heartbeat, its life itself, can only be derived from its living components, us. We now invite an offering to be made by the willing and received in love. We collect an offering each week to help our church stay vital and strong, but we also know that it's our annual pledges of financial support that are its lifeblood. Today is the last day of our annual stewardship campaign, and we ask our members and friends to consider what you're able to contribute to All Souls Church in the coming fiscal year. When you have arrived at a number that is a meaningful amount, an amount you can offer with joy and ease, please fill out the annual estimate of giving form. The links which are in the chat are in the order of service. You can also email our treasurer, Mary Mitchell, and let her know what you plan to offer over the next year. Although today is the target date for gathering your commitments so we can draft a realistic budget, we will still gratefully receive notification of your intentions throughout the coming months. As of Friday, we have received commitments for 15 pledges totaling $41,000, so we are $9,000 from our goal of $50,000. A big thank you goes to those of you who have made commitments and to the many of you that have generously increased your annual estimates, which, when taken together, amount to $2,000 more than what was committed for those 15 pledges last year. This morning's offering, as well as our annual pledges, will now be received with gratitude as we hear a song by Boston-based musician Alex Sam. Thank you for your sharing.
If the sun thought she could never lead us on our way, if the moon thought he would never see the light of day, we would never feel what we now see as real. We would never know how far we could go. I'll paddle our canoe, 'cause I I can see the view, and I believe it's true that I can do it too. If the wildest flower never thought that he should bloom, if the forest worried they would take up too much room, if the tallest mountain thought she'd fall back to the ground, if the sprouting seedling thought that he would not be found, we would never feel what we now see as real. We would never know how far we could go. I'll paddle our canoe, 'cause I can see the view, and I believe it's true that you can do it too. La 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 I'll follow all the clues, I'll drink the morning dew and find my way to you. Let's paddle our canoe, 'cause I can see the view, and I believe it's true that we can do it too.
A story of Rabbi Susha. Martin Buber tells the story of the great Hasidic Rabbi Susha. He was born in southern Poland, and he lived from 1718 until 1800. On his deathbed, Susha began to cry uncontrollably, and his students and disciples tried hard to comfort him. They asked him, "Rabbi, why do you weep? You are almost as wise as Moses, you are almost as hospitable as Abraham, and surely heaven will judge you favorably." Susha answered them, "It is true. When I get to heaven, I won't worry so much if God asks me, 'Susha, why were you not more like Abraham?' Or 'Susha, why were you not more like Moses?' I know I would be able to answer these questions. After all, I was not given the righteousness of Abraham or the faith of Moses, but I tried to be both hospitable and thoughtful. But what will I say when God asks me, 'Susha, why were you not more like Susha?'"
Thank you, Don. In 1957, a group of monks needed to relocate a giant clay Buddha statue from their temple to a new location, since their monastery was being relocated to make room for a highway through Bangkok. When the crane lifted the massive idol, the weight of it was so tremendous that it began to crack. The head monk, who was concerned about damaging the sacred statue, decided to lower Buddha back to the ground and cover it with a large canvas tarp to protect it from the coming rain. Later that evening, that monk went to go check on the Buddha statue. He shone his flashlight under the tarp to see if the Buddha was staying dry, and he noticed a gleam of light shining through the crack in the clay. As he took a closer look, he wondered if there might be something underneath the clay. He ran to wake up the other monks. With a chisel and hammer in hand, the monks began to carefully chip away the thick clay from the Buddha. As they knocked off shards of clay, the little gleam grew brighter and brighter. After hours of chiseling, the monks stepped back and stared in awe at the sight before them. There, in front of the monks, stood a solid gold Buddha, a 5-ton gold Buddha. This is an actual picture of said Buddha. Historians believe that this Buddha had been covered with clay by Thai monks 200 years earlier. After realizing that their country would soon be attacked by the invading Burmese army, these monks covered their precious golden Buddha with an outer covering of clay in order to keep their treasure from being looted by the Burmese. Unfortunately, all of those monks 200 years ago were killed in the attack. So their well-kept secret of the golden Buddha remained intact until its accidental discovery in 1957. We all have slathered on layers of clay to protect us from danger at different times in our lives, be it from societal norms that we learn to fit into, coping mechanisms that we adopted to deal with a difficult situation, or hiding some parts of ourselves to try and keep ourselves safe. And sometimes we become so accustomed to these protective layers, we start to think that's who we really are. But within each of us, there is something magnificent and luminous, just waiting to be rediscovered and celebrated. As the author Paulo Coelho wrote, maybe the journey isn't so much about becoming anything. Maybe it's about unbecoming everything that isn't really you, so you can be who you were meant to be in the first place. It takes courage and diligence to keep chipping away at the layers of clay that surround our truest selves. And as we grow, it's a process that we may go through over and over, returning to who we are. I love how the late Gail Sheeny describes this process, that we are not unlike a particularly hardy crustacean. The lobster grows by developing and shedding a series of hard protective shells. Each time it expands from within, the confining shell must be sloughed off. It is left exposed and vulnerable until, in time, a new covering grows to replace the old. With each passage from one stage of human growth to the next, we too must shed our protective structures. We are left exposed and vulnerable, but also yeasty and embryonic again, capable of stretching in ways that we hadn't known before. I was listening to one of my favorite podcasts this week, Harry Potter and the Sacred Text. I highly recommend it. And the Reverend Dr. Matt Potts happened to be sharing a story exactly about becoming who you are and unbecoming who you are not. Matt Potts is a professor at Harvard Divinity School and an Episcopal priest. 20 years ago, Matt begins, I gave my father a silver dollar. And it's a silver dollar he still has and he still carries around with him. Here's the story. For as long as Matt Potts could remember growing up, he wanted basically two things out of life. The first thing he wanted was to be in the Navy. His dad and his grandfather had been in the Navy, and Matt would see his dad coming home from his Navy Reserve weekends in his uniform. And Matt was always really proud of his dad for his service, and he wanted to be like him. And he says the other reason he wanted to be in the Navy was because in the 4th grade, he'd seen the movie Top Gun, and he kind of had a crush on Tom Cruise. The other thing that was a part of Matt's life for as long as he could remember was a desire to follow Jesus, to live up to Jesus's teachings. Those were the two things that were really important to Matt, being in the Navy and being in the church. And you have to understand, he said, in the place that I grew up in the world I grew up in, American military power sat really easily next to Christian life. I didn't really analyze that. So Matt went to a Catholic college on a Navy ROTC scholarship. And when he graduated, he was commissioned an officer in the United States Navy. Now, there's a tradition in the Navy that when you become an officer, the first person who salutes you, you give them a silver dollar. The way that it worked for Matt was that the very day that he graduated and was commissioned, he immediately outranked his dad, who, while he had spent 20 years in the Navy and retired, he was an enlisted man. So at Matt's commissioning, they finish the oath, and Matt's dad turns to him and salutes him. Matt salutes him back and takes a silver dollar out of his pocket and flips it over to his dad. Soon after that, Matt went out onto the fleet. He went onto a ship, and things started to change for Matt in pretty dramatic ways. He went onto a ship called the USS Vincennes, which in 1989 had mistakenly shot down an Iranian civilian airliner and had killed almost 300 innocent people. Now, Matt was not on the ship at that time, but that was the legacy of the ship upon which he arrived to serve, and it jarred him. The other thing that happened during that time when he first arrived on the ship was that he was reading a lot. And he found that the two things that sat so easily together before, American military might and divine sanction, started to come into conflict in his heart and mind. And within a few months of arriving on the ship, he realized that he had changed, that he could not in good conscience serve in the Navy. He started to feel that his own Christian commitments overruled those of the military. Now, to the people around him, it was a huge change in him. He'd been really gung-ho about serving in the military for years, and then he got onto the fleet and everything changed. Matt decided to try and get out of the Navy as a conscientious objector. A long process with a lot of hearings to try to prove that he took his oath in good faith, but that something had changed within him. His peers on the ship and his captain were really unhappy with him. It was a stressful time. But Matt says, I cared about the opinion of my peers and the captain of the ship a lot less than I cared about the opinion of my dad. He eventually did get out of the Navy. They sent him home along with a bill for his college education. And he went to his family home in Michigan. He was talking with his mom and he said, I'm glad I'm out, but I'm really sad that I let Dad down. Matt's mom says, don't move. And she ran to grab his dad from the other room, brought him in. Now you tell him what you told me, his mom says. I'm sorry I let you down, Dad, Matt said. His father replied, Matthew, you didn't let me down. I'm proud of you. I don't agree with what you did, but what I'm most worried about is that you would stay in for my sake, and 20 years from now, you might wake up and not like yourself very much. I'm proud that you did what you thought was right, and I'm proud that you're my son. Matt gets misty-eyed retelling this story even 20 years later. It meant a lot to him. Looking back, Matt says it felt like becoming a conscientious objector was a big change both to himself and to everyone around him. But inside myself, Matt says, it didn't feel like I was becoming someone else. It felt like I was becoming who I was meant to be. It felt like I was transforming into myself. And why I'm so grateful for my father, Matt concludes, is that he knew that already as soon as I got home, before even I did, which is why he wasn't sad or sorry that I made the decision that I made, why he was proud, and why he still carries that silver dollar around with him every day. I imagine that we all have moments that we can point to in our own lives where we made a change or chose a life path to be true to ourselves. For me, this story brings me back to the time when I was in rabbinical school, studying to be a rabbi, and also attending a UU congregation and feeling this pull to UU ministry. It was a hard and scary and conflicted time for me. And the process of discerning what to do felt a lot like chipping away at the clay and not knowing what would happen. Would I shatter something precious or find something even more valuable inside? When I did transfer from rabbinical school to seminary to pursue UU ordination, it did feel like I was growing more into myself. I unbecame a rabbinical student, but it's important to say that I didn't unbecome Jewish. I became something new, a Jewish Unitarian Universalist. But what's core to who I am is still true. Because becoming something new and unbecoming something we are not doesn't mean that we have to leave everything behind. Following that which shines with a light of truth, with the light of our own truth, will always lead us to our own most radiant selves. Beloveds, as we grow, we have the chance over and over again to shed that which no longer fits, which no longer serves us. It is never too late. For all of the changes that you have gone through, all of the ways that you have become who you are and unbecome who you are not, I am so proud of you. For all of the cracks in the clay, where you sense that there is something luminous underneath, may you have the courage and the diligence to keep chipping away that which covers your light. The world needs your radiance. Let it shine. In honor of that glow, we sing our closing hymn, This Little Light of Mine. Let's sing together.
This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. Everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. Everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Building up a world, I'm gonna let it shine. Building up a world, I'm gonna let it shine. Building up a world, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine.
And our closing words are from Margaret Williams Braxton. Once upon a time I was. Now I am. Someday I will become. Once there was, and now there is. Soon there will be, and someday there surely shall be. Once upon a time we were. Now we are, and someday, hallelujah, we shall surely become. Amen. Our postlude today is from the film about P.T. Barnum, the greatest showman, who was, by the way, a Universalist. This video that we're sharing is of the song This Is Me, and it's from a workshop session before the movie was even filmed. It was the first time the cast was all together singing. And the lead vocalist, Keala Settle, is so nervous. She didn't even want to come out from behind the music stand. And then something magical happens. Enjoy. I'm talking. Here we go. Thank you.
Hide away, they say, 'cause we don't want your broken parts. I've learned to be ashamed of all my scars.
now that I've made us all cry. As soon as she steps out from behind that music stand, I just like lose it. Okay. Whew. All right. I love people coming into their own. Just nothing. Oh, okay. Announcements. We have some of those. We have some stuff coming up, some chances to stay connected to community in this week. On Monday, we have our weekly midday meetup, which again has moved from Tuesdays to Mondays. So it'll be at 3:30 for some informal conversation. Monday evening at 6:30 is the Board of Trustees meeting for the month of April. Just so that y'all know, Friday, the 23rd is our deadline for the Chimes newsletter. If you have something from a committee you're involved in or a project or something that needs to go in, that's the deadline. Friday morning at 10 a.m. is a facilitated discussion, and as a connection circle, you're welcome to come to either or both of those. And then next Sunday, I'm really thrilled to have my friend Martha Durkee Newman come preach. She's the director of religious education at the church in Malden, the UU Church in Malden, and has the Sunday off. She's also a seminary student at Boston University. She'll be preaching an Earth Day related sermon called Our Lives Are in Each Other's Hands. So I hope you have a wonderful time with her. I know she'll have a great time with you. Any other church announcements that I have missed? Just kind of scrolling through, make sure I don't miss anybody. Okay, great. Thank you to Alicia for tech support, to Ross and Don for being service assistant and our readers today. Jacob has had the Sunday off, but we thank him for his ongoing gifts of service. And thank you all for being here. I'm really grateful to spend this morning with you.